Hello my friends, welcome to Reddit Rabbit. Before we start, catch the rabbit at the bottom right corner, smash that subscribe button and leave a comment. r/AskReddit, divorce lawyers of Reddit, what is the most insane, evil, funny, dumb, way a spouse has tried to screw the other? Divorce lawyer here. Spouse had been out of the house for weeks. She waited until he was on a business trip, came into the house, turned on all of the faucets, plugged the drains, turned off the furnace, and left. It was -10 degrees. He came back 5 days later. The house was ruined. The water froze and cracked the foundation. I'm guessing no insurance. Or insurance didn't cover a deliberate act of damage, or something. With it being a deliberate act of an insured on the policy, she would still have been considered uninsured by the definition in most policies. Yeah, I'm thinking claim denied. In AZ, if a spouse intentionally ruins communal property, then they actually violate a state statute designed to do that and she could be arrested and sued for the damage. It sucks to lose a house in that way, but really makes negotiations go quick. Had a client whose wife wanted him out of the house. I told him not to leave, just move to a different bedroom for the time being, because once he was out the chances of him ever getting back in was slim. He texted his wife and told her he was staying in the house. She called back and left a VM that she wanted him out and if he wasn't out soon, she would start taking out her unhappiness on the children, and would remind the children that mommy was being mean to them, because daddy wouldn't leave. 101 on how to lose custody. You bet I played it for the mediator and judge. What was the result? This one hits close to home, because it happened between my parents. We had a family friend who was a lawyer and my parents agreed that he would be the lawyer for both of them as a mediator. So, as the assets were being divided, my dad got absolutely slammed. She was going to get the house, cars, half his retirement, and an insane amount of alimony, to the tune of like $2,500 a month for the rest of her life. My dad has a good job as a municipal employee, but that was probably 70%ish of his paycheck. Turns out that my mum and the family friend actually conspired to rip my dad off and make it seem like that's what a divorce settlement looks like. And she was going to kick back more money under the table after the dust had settled. Dad just didn't know how these things worked. So, after some convincing, he finally went out and got his own lawyer. He got a very fair divorce settlement after that. Mum still to this day can't understand why we don't talk to her much. That other attorney could be disbarred for that. Should be. Slipping Jimmy back at it. I'm going to school to be a vet assistant. My teacher is a veterinarian. She told us on Monday she's had clients bring their animals in to be euthanized so their spouse couldn't have them. SMDH. Is it even freaking legal? Yes, it is. It isn't ethical though. Most vets take their oath seriously. Can vets refuse? Absolutely. They have an ethical responsibility to do no harm to animals. My dad is a vet. A client wanted 6 kittens euthanized. We couldn't accept him as a client and then not euthanize them, so we had to get his permission to set them up for adoption. He agreed, as long as he didn't have to do much paperwork. Jesus frick. People argued with me up and down that I could accept him and then not put them down. Or they said, why don't you just refuse him as a client, like if the guy's wanting them out down. If he's refused then he'll just put them in a bag on the fricking highway. People acted like they knew 10 times more than my dad, who's the best vet in our state. Granted, that state is Mississippi, and he's been in practice for over 20 years. People didn't understand the concept that if we didn't refuse him, we'd have to do what he wanted. I work for a divorce attorney now, but the craziest thing came to my attention when I worked for the prosecuting attorney. This couple was breaking up and Mr. left the house. Mrs. went to work the next morning as usual. When she returned home in the evening, she found Mr. had been to the house and removed his clothing and belongings as she expected. What she didn't expect was that he had also gorilla glued her belongings together. He glued the TV remote to the table, the phone to its cradle, the couch pillows to the couch, and even glued the vacuum cleaner to the carpet. She called the police and reported this as property damage. The police went with her through the house documenting dozens of items glued to various things, but for days she was discovering random things and she would call to amend or update her report. My GD oven mitts were glued to the wall. Or he glued the effing sheets together in the linen closet. I've seen people do and say really awful things to each other, but that was diabolical. Whoa. That's, creative. Smart of her to call the police. Documenting this upfront helps. I can't stop laughing at the absurdity of it all. Just imagining she kept finding random things glued together for weeks afterwards. It's hilariously evil. Weeks? It might be years. When was the last time you needed to move a picture frame? I mean, under the circumstances, I'd probably check picture frames pretty early on. 2 years later. Need to change that light bulb. Frick. 3 years later. Refrigerator dies. Ghost to unplug it. Frick. How about a wholesome, insane one? Anal, but this was told to me by my mum regarding the divorce she got from my dad. They couldn't settle on an alimony amount. Mum and her lawyer came in with a number. Dad countered with a number. They couldn't agree. Because my dad thought my mum should get twice the amount in alimony she was asking for and my mum didn't want my dad to give her that much money for months. It took months for them to settle on a figure that appeased both of them. Even then, my mum puts aside the extra above what she wanted in case my dad ever has a financial emergency and my dad puts aside the extra she didn't want in case my mum ever has a financial emergency. The funny thing is, they don't know the other is putting the money aside for the other. My mum told me about her emergency stash and my dad told my brother about his emergency stash. Bro and I discussed it while talking about what nut jobs our parents are. Okay, I'm leaving this thread while the warmth from this post is making me feel better after reading about all the crazy people. Totally feeling the same here. I was just about to leave reading the comments section and this was the final one. A great one to finish on. Love that story. Or, what caused the divorce out of curiosity? My dad had had a girlfriend for the past 15+ years. My mum knew, but the agreement was they would divorce after my brother graduated high school. My parents had been together since they were 7th and 8th graders, so honestly I think at some point it just became habit. It was a very amicable divorce, both are remarried and I get along with all 4 of my parents. Worked at an airport. Big burly guy brings an ugly ass dog in a crate to the counter. He is clearly misty-eyed. Turns out wife got the dog in the divorce and he has to send it to her and she told him as soon as she gets it she is putting it down. He asks if he can have some time with the dog before the flight so they go out in the grass and they both roll around in the grass. Dog's tail just wagging away not knowing anything about his future. The guy puts him back in the crate, drops him off the counter, says thanks and then just walked out head down and just looking crushed. That was 30 years ago and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Who the frick does that? I don't know. How can you go from loving somebody to that much hatred? So much so to murder an innocent dog. What half? I've seen a guy get a surprise reunion with his dog that his ex-girlfriend took. She said that she had to give it away because her new place wouldn't allow pets. So the dog was basically long lost or even dead in his mind. I didn't know the backstory at the time, just that he hadn't seen it in a long time. I'm pretty sure I would have teared up if I did. But I was just standing there oblivious, like damn, dude must have really loved the dog. He was ugly crying and the dog's tail was like a helicopter blade while it licked all his tears up. Evidently, it happens quite a bit. An ex lying about the pet to hurt the other. Super messed up either way. This reminds me of something that happened to one of the cats that got adopted from the shelter I volunteer at. A woman came in looking for a specific cat that she saw on the website, saying she thinks it might be her old cat that her ex took when they broke up. Since she and her ex hadn't been in contact, she had no idea why the cat would end up in a shelter, but she was positive it was her cat because of similar unique markings and fur pattern. Sure enough, I take her to the cat's cage, and she bursts into tears and they both obviously recognize each other. I took the cat out and put them in a visit room together, and damn it was like they had never even been separated. The cat immediately rubbed against her and curled up in her lap. The woman showed me pics of the cat as a kitten and I'm pretty sure it was the same cat. It turns out the ex had surrendered the cat because he was moving. The woman was so happy to be reunited and she wouldn't have even found the cat if she hadn't been browsing the website by chance. One of the happiest adoptions I helped see through. Divorce lawyer accusing their former spouse of forcing them into prostitution. Text messages revealed they were actually just swingers. She also admitted to lying in order to make him burn. I can't wait to leave my practice area. That seems like a super illegal accusation. The day she wasn't held in contempt was a sad day for our justice system. It makes it difficult for true victims of ex trafficking to be taken seriously. Have you ever had someone held in contempt, charged with perjury for lying? I always thought it was a serious issue growing up in law school, but in practice I have never had a court or prosecutor take it seriously.